So, the Habs are playing off against the Capitals. Do not worry, folks. We will be making a post-game video about that once the game is over. But in the meantime, I wanted to get into a conversation that was spoken about on Sportsnet 650 3 days ago. This is a conversation between Jamie Dodd and Randeep Janda on Canucks Talk. And the video is going to be linked in the description if you want to go out there and take a look at it yourself. The question is, who should the Vancouver Canucks target this offseason? Jamie Dodd pitches Trevor Zegras as a fit for Vancouver, while Randeep Janda draws a unique comparison. Would Zegras make sense for Vancouver? And I know what you might be thinking. Okay, what the hell? These Canucks Talk guys are out to lunch. What are you talking about? Trevor Zegras in Vancouver? And Jamie Dodd is the guy who actually does propose the idea on the broadcast. He does make a reasonable pitch. And that's why I do think there is some worthwhile conversation to be had when discussing this particular player in this particular kind of acquisition. Let's get into the details here. So, Trevor Zegras, first and foremost, absolutely, as Jamie Dodd talks about in the broadcast, absolutely not a Rick Tocchet-like player. He's more so known for his flair, for the dramatic, and his offensive capabilities, and his Michigan goals, and his fancy dekes, and his lacrosse moves, and his blind-folded dodgeball parodies. But Trevor Zegras is a guy primarily known for that offensive flair, and whose offensive flair has definitely taken a turn for the worst over the past 2 years or so. A 160-time point scorer in back-to-back seasons, ended up scoring only 15 points in 31 games in 23-24, and then this season he bounced back a little bit, 32 points in 57 total games for the Ducks. It's not great to see the progression for a guy who is in this age range take a bit of a halt in the middle part of his 20s, but Trevor Zegras just doesn't really fit the mold as to what the Anaheim Ducks want. We say this all the time, but Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlsson, Isaac Lindstrom, Mason McTavish, these are the kinds of guys that Pat Verbeek wants on his team. They're rough, they're tough, they're hard to play against, they're usually a bit bulkier, and they play with big dog energy. Honestly, I would kind of say that it's similar to what Rick Tocchet values out of his players. Like, JT Miller was such a unique combination of that dog and that physical ability whilst being able to produce points. But some of the other guys that are more skilled, the Niels Höglanders, the Kuzmenkos, to an extent the Elias Petterssons, these guys don't really excel too well under Tocchet's systems, which is why Jamie Dodd goes out there and says on the broadcast on Sportsnet that, hey, it doesn't seem like an ideal fit. Trevor Zegras with Rick Tocchet does not sound like a match that is anywhere near Heaven's Gate or anywhere on the path to eternal prosperity in the afterlife. Zegras and Tocchet do not seem like a fit that would work. But Dodd's argument is, firstly, because Zegras isn't really the kind of guy that's all too hot right now, you probably could get him for a discount. And secondly, the Vancouver Canucks are not in a spot where they can afford the biggest of the big targets on the market or whatever. They're going to have to compensate somewhere if they want to try to maximize the value of the assets they can acquire. If you can get a big fish in free agency, a guy you sign, and then trade for a guy like Zegras as well, that has a good opportunity to change the way this forward core looks, especially since you need a center. If you get yourselves another center in the free agency pool, or you make another trade for a more high-profile guy, if you get Zegras as a secondary option, you could maybe move him to the wing. There's some versatility there. And also, there's this idea floating around that says that Zegras hasn't really been all too hot lately in Anaheim. Is there a team out there that, in some respect, can revive this guy's career a la Pierre-Luc Dubois, who had gone from team to team to team, from Columbus over to Winnipeg over to LA, where he absolutely stunk, and then he got traded, and now he's doing very well with the Washington Capitals. Not saying that Zegras and Dubois are the same player, they play very different styles after all, But can we see some sort of a Pierre-Luc Dubois-like resurgence out of Trevor Zegras in his career if he goes to the right team and he plays with the right system? Now, Vancouver might not actually be that system, nor the coaching staff to get that done, but the question is, would you take that risk? Zegras is only making $5-point-something million till the end of 2026, 5.7 mil actually. So there is no long-term commitment with this kind of a guy. If you trade for him, you're trading for the next year's worth of time. If it works, okay, great. Then you can re-sign him, then you can give him some money. But if it doesn't work, then you only have that contract for a year. This is all assuming the Vancouver Canucks do maybe something else or they acquire another guy on top of a Trevor Zegras. He's not really the guy that I think would be the main big fish in some sort of an off-season trade plan. But the point is, this is an idea that I think does make sense in theory when you look at all the attributes and you look at just what potential could be there. If Zegras is the same 20-goal, 60-point guy like he was in his first few seasons in the NHL, if he's able to unlock more of an offensive playmaking edge, maybe this guy could be the player setting up Elias Pettersson rather than just Quinn Hughes. And then you think about it, okay, yeah, Quinn Hughes with the NTDP and the Michigan Wolverines, all these NTDP guys are relatively close. Hughes and Caulfield, Zegras, Quinn Hughes, the older brother, and the Tkachuks. There is a very strong American, dare I even say, frat boy connection with these US NTDP players, and Zegras heading over to a Vancouver squad to support his buddy Quinn. That does sound somewhat intriguing. I do think that there is the possibility that if you just surround Quinn with all these NTDP guys, he does maybe have a higher likelihood of wanting to stick around. Just imagine if the Canucks drafted Boldy over Podkolzin in 2019, if they ended up finding a way to get another Hughes bro, you trade away Villander or whatever for Luke Hughes, and you make that go through. If you have Zegras, Hughes, and maybe even a Boldy, if you were able to get that done, then probably it's a slam dunk deal that Quinn Hughes re-signs long term. But of course, that's just hypothetical. That's not the reality that we live in right now. That is a pipe dream at that point, especially when you consider how good Matt Boldy has been. Ultimately, though, back in 2019, I wanted the Canucks to draft Cole Caulfield 10th overall, and they diverted from everybody's expectations when they selected Podslovev. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the idea of Zegras heading over to Vancouver. Do you think this would be a realistic buy low option for the Canucks? And do you think there's a chance that if Zegras revives his career a la Pierre-Luc Dubois from LA to Washington, can Z do that with the Vancouver Canucks and a Rick Tocchet-coached hockey team? This team needs more offensive contribution, and Zegras has that creativity and playmaking skill to potentially have an impact. The question is, though, will Rick Tocchet tolerate it, and will Zegras' willingness to execute those moves wither away if he is in Vancouver? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below whether or not this is a good or a bad idea. The video which this is discussed will be linked in the description from the Sportsnet 650 Twitter account. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.